think we might talk about this in the newsletter, Nick. There's a little creep happening. I don't know if you're noticing this, Frank. But the creep here is that there is this giant void of male lead actors under 40. There aren't any. There's this link, and I think we'll end up putting it in the newsletter.
No, there's one.
And when you see this list, Nick, of names of actors, you will be shocked that all these people are over 40.
Oh no, man, there's one, and I see him in everything.
Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah,
there it is.
But Timothée Chalamet can't do every movie, right? Like he's got Wonka coming up. Who knows how that's going to be?
Yeah.
But you got Timothée Chalamet. Here's what I counted. So I was on the phone earlier with a director friend of mine, and we were talking about this. And we could come up with under 40 that really make sense, that are really stars, Frank, that have a name that you can count on and bank on for box office, right? Like you're walking into the streamer or walking to AMC and you're trying to sell your movie at AFM even, right? I've got Timothée Chalamet. I've got Channing Tatum. I've got the dude that played Elvis, Austin Butler. And I've got John David Washington, like from Tenet and the creator, like Denzel's son. I think that's it. Like, who else is under 40?
What about what's the guy's name who played Elton John? He's in Rocket Man.
Oh, okay. There's Tom Holland. I should mention Tom Holland.
Okay, Spider-Man. Yeah,
but I don't know that. Yeah. I don't know that guy. Like,
he's.
I know what you're talking about.
He was leading Blackbird series. But anyways, I would say he's. But look,
the fact that we can't think of him is the point.
Yeah, Taron.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was also going to say the lead.
Taron Egerton.
Some of the leads in like.
I'd also say that
Us.
Well, I was going to say Get Out, right?
Like there's Lakeith Stanfield. Like I think
I was going to say Lakeith, but he's not. He doesn't hit the star.
He should.
He's been in there like
he's.
What about Garrett Hudlin?
I think he should get
he's super talented. Yeah,
but he's not there yet. Yeah.
So here are the names that are over 40. Just like like just off the top of my head. Of course, there's nobody to replace Pacino, De Niro. Who's replacing Will Smith? Over 50. Brad Pitt over 50. Leonardo DiCaprio was 49 years old. Like, let that sink in.
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal is 42. Bradley Cooper 43.
But to go back to your point about what the seasons we're in, right, as filmmakers, I was having a conversation with another producer friend of mine about this is going to sound funny, but just masculinity in the leading man. And I don't think it's ever, honestly, I don't think that 50-year-old stars that we're talking about, and, I hate to put everybody in that, but I don't think they match our De Niro generation. I don't think they match an Al Pacino and, what these guys did to really bring this just masculine, full, just heart of a man into like some real vulnerable roles that we just haven't seen that, who would play Taxi Driver? Michael B. Jordan. Yeah,
who would do it?
Right?
No, that's under 40. Yeah, they're not using AI to replace actors. They're using AI to take the stars we know and make them look younger.
It's so true. Yeah.
They did that with Tom Cruise in MI, right? The latest MI.
Yeah, Indiana Jones.
Like they can't let Harrison Ford die. There's no replacement for him.
It also might even be a reaction to we don't have the A-listers like we had, just with the saturation in the golden age of stars. A lot of these are from the 90s, and that was just a different time. And you could build an A-lister, that we watched kind of erode, in a way. Like you just don't have that kind of superstar. Like I remember when they were saying like Jim Carrey was kind of the last actor, right? To have that like superstardom level.
Yeah. I got an idea, Frank. Let's play with this real quick. I could be totally wrong. I'm usually not. But, so what I'm thinking is there was something that we had back in the day that we don't have now. At least it is eroding as well.
Lick a stick.
We had commercials.
Oh,
stop that.
Sorry.
We had commercials. And that's where people had to cut their teeth as actors, was in commercial work. So if you look at all these actors you're talking about, they started out doing commercials. And then they kept doing commercials, and they just kind of kept going through and then maturating throughout that process. We don't have that now. Like, there's commercials at the Super Bowl, but like, we avoid commercials, or our commercials are 15 seconds, right? Or 10 seconds or 6 seconds.
Oh, I see what you're getting at now. Cause I'm like, a lot of actors do commercials, but
that's what I'm saying. But
we don't, you're saying we're not watching them. So we're not getting familiar with these people.
And those people aren't, I just feel like they're not growing through the commercial process. You see what I'm saying? But because a lot of them started at the age of 5, and then they were 7, and they were not even saying they grew up in the industry, and they became names that you were familiar with, and then they get put into these roles.
Drew Barrymore.
Exactly. So now, how does that work? When do they first cut their teeth at acting? Where do you find them? How do you know that they're professionals? Because these kids were professionals by the age of 12. They started at 5. I mean, 7 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a long time in the industry. 7 years, but you're only 12 years old, but you've been doing these things. And I'm just wondering if that's potentially part of why we don't have a core anymore, because you haven't built relationships over the course of 20 years.
With the viewer.
You mentioned, and with the industry. I mean, you mentioned DiCaprio. I mean, how young was he when he started?
Was Basketball Diaries his first thing?
No, he did something.
I don't know.
I mean, he did television. He did.
He did. You're right.
Show that he was on, but he's got the famous audition tape with De Niro. He did.
Yeah, I mean, but he's doing it from, as I'm saying, he did it from such a young age. And I feel like that's why also there's such big stars, is that they've been around for so long. Mm-hmm. They've done so many things. And like you said, from the viewer's perspective, we respect that journey. We've seen them in so many things. In some respects, many of us grew up with them.
Yeah.
And then you had the industry side of it, which is they grew up with them. They know them. They know their families, right? They've created relationships. They're built into the industry for a very long time, which is, again, I just don't know. What does that look like now? We don't do commercials like that anymore.
Yeah. But also, like, I just wonder, a thought. I wonder too, with just the amount of access that we have now to people and lives, like, you used to not have the access. You didn't know Harrison Ford, in Indiana. Your only access was when you got to the theater to see them again, and you attach. Mm-hmm. They became A-listers because you attach yourself to them. And you want to be in the movie theater with Julia Roberts. You want to be in there. And we always learned that as actors growing up. Like, once you hit the A level, star status, you're not acting anymore. You're there to be you in that role. And, so
beautifully put.
This is an element of, like, now you have full access. Chris Pratt's world and where he lives and where he has a farm and how his kids are and that he's divorced. I mean, everything. And I just think, it's like you could go into modern sports a little bit, the same way. Like, we have full access into these worlds, and then it's not as whether we get tired of it or we just are with them elsewhere. We don't need to go to the movie theater to be with them anymore.
Is diluted. I think social media also dilutes it, for better or for worse. Sure. But it's, if you see someone on social media, just if you see people on social media that you follow that have 10 million followers, your whole experience with them is just via social. It's on your phone. Mm-hmm. But you might like them more than you like someone on the big screen. Yeah. Right? They're more of a celebrity to you than someone else on the screen. But before, for us, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
That celebrity was only on the movies. Like, you only got to see them there. I was like, wow.
Yeah. The age of putting posters on your wall doesn't. Yes. It seems reserved for athletes now because, or if at all. You make the point, Nick, a couple of weeks ago about how, like, maybe a couple of months ago, actually, when Barbie was out, that, hey, this is just, it's great, but it's a long commercial for Mattel. And I agree with that.
Yep.
And I love the movie, on the record saying that many times, but it is a big commercial. And I think maybe that's how it's being done now. Like, you do it through Disney, and Disney has these shows where, all the stars on those shows end up being your next movie stars, are musicians of late. And these Disney shows, you've seen how they play out, how they're written. It's terrible. And they are just commercials for Disney and commercials for the the scripts many times, I think High School Musical, for example, those scripts are written as a platform to show off that person's talents because they have a long-term plan for them. I think Kurt Russell, by the way, fun fact, was the very first sort of Disney actor that came out of the Disney television machine and became a big star. And now Kurt's been in the business for 50 years. Like, that's a sustainable model, man. Like, Kurt knows where all the bodies are buried. Like, so, so that's, yeah, so that's dope.